Hey Facebook, I am here today at Envision Imaging. I picked up my last barium mochaccino. This is the one that I always get when I go for my CT scan for my colorectal cancer that I had in 2015. So I said to the lady in there, and I came out here and I was going to get my car and go, and I thought, you know what, this is important. I just want to share this on Facebook with, just the next steps of my journey and what it's been like for me. But as the lady was doing my paperwork, I was standing in there, I was kind of, looking at everybody sitting there, and I always think, what are their stories? What brought them here? Are they just coming in for maybe, a knee MRI? Are they here because maybe they have pneumonia? There was an older couple. All day. So I'm sorry if I kind of go in and out because it seems like the connection is bad. But I was thinking about, how I had sat in there 5 years before, and when I was waiting for my paperwork and all that, and so I looked at her and I said, this is my last one, because she said, what kind, we have like X amount of types of barium, and I said, I want the mochaccino, that's the one I always get, and I said, I'm a pro. I've had, so many CT scans. And so she, got it out and got it ready for me. And I said, January 22nd, 2020 is going to mark my 5 years. And it's so surreal to me as I think back at that time when I first walked into those doors. Like, I can clearly remember the very first day. Philip was with me. We weren't married yet. And I was just in a whirlwind. I had just been hit with this news that I had cancer, that what I thought was a hemorrhoid, like an internal hemorrhoid, and then I thought was a polyp, was actually a polyp that turned cancerous over probably a 10-year period. Crazy. I remember sitting on the phone with my gynecologist because they were going to test me for Lynch syndrome. So those of you, if who've had breast cancer, they'll test you for the BRCA gene. So if you get colon cancer and things like that, they'll test you for Lynch syndrome. So kind of similar, because you can have a whole host of other possible cancers if you have it. So fortunately, I was negative for both BRCA and for Lynch. But I was on the phone with her and we were talking about that, and she said to me, if you do have Lynch, then we can remove basically all your girl parts and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. Like, it was just surreal. I had been such a healthy person, lived, whole food, mainly plant-based lifestyle, and did all the right things, exercise, probiotics. So I was floored. And I remember that was the day that they were actually going to do, I think, the MRI on me. But the very first day that I walked in there, I was by myself. That's right. Let me take you back to this day. It was really interesting because I remember I snapped a picture and had sent it to a friend of mine, and I was like in scrubs, and I don't think I've ever been in scrubs before. So I was like, oh, look at me, I'm in scrubs, I'm going to go have the CT scan. Didn't even have an inkling of worry. Like, I did not think there was going to be anything wrong. It felt like it was routine. Now, any of you who have been through this process, when they told me after I had a colonoscopy, I had some bleeding. And so I'm sharing this with you too. If you guys are in that space where like something, you're bleeding, or you're having weird issues like that, go get checked out. And don't let anybody just blow it off. I was told I had an internal hemorrhoid for years. Like, let's see. It started with my first son. So I had him in 2004, and she thought she saw a hemorrhoid in there, which was probably a tiny polyp. But again, you're not going to, so much is going on down there after you have a baby. So, okay. And then in 2011, so 7 years later, I started having some symptoms, but it wasn't bleeding. It was just like discomfort, things that just were a little wonky. And she thought I had an internal hemorrhoid. And I remember thinking, well, should I go see somebody? And she was like, oh, you're so healthy, and, we'll just do suppositories. And it was really not an issue. I mean, it was like came and went, no big deal. It was probably growing, right? It was a tumor, so it was a polyp growing, so it was probably, that's why I was uncomfortable. But I didn't start bleeding until 2014. And had I gone for a colonoscopy, if that was recommended to me, I probably would have been able to get that polyp snipped out and not have gone through what I went through. So it's just something we always have to advocate for our own health, guys. Just know, that is just super critical to, advocate for yourself. Because, I didn't really have a choice. There wasn't really a choice. I asked about it. She was like, you're healthy. I mean, if you really want to set up an appointment, we can do that. And I looked into the cost, and it was going to cost me, I don't know, $2,000 or whatever. I was a single mom at the time. I was trying to pay off debt, and I thought, well, I don't want to go spend some money on something that probably will end up being nothing, because I had IBS for 20 years, maybe a little less at that time. I mean, it's been 25 now. And so I thought to myself, every other test I've done shows like nothing's wrong with me, because they didn't know, like now they know IBS usually is SIBO a lot of the times. So at the time, they didn't know it was wrong. So every time I would do a food sensitivity test, or I would do, I had a sigmoidoscopy. I'd had these things in the past, and nothing really ever transpired. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go spend $2,000 to get this colonoscopy, because unfortunately our insurance doesn't cover it, right, in our 30s. And there's so many people in their 30s now being diagnosed. Like, we have to lower the age. I mean, this is crazy that we can't go get a colonoscopy, that it can't be covered, at least partially covered. I mean, something, to have to spend, $2,000, or if you don't have insurance, how much that would cost, I don't even know. But anyway, I remember just being really nonchalant. The recommendation from the doctor was, well, it's a polyp, and we want you to go get your blood tested, and, go get the CT scan. So literally I was just like snapping the pictures, like, check out my scrubs and whatever. Didn't even think anything of it. So when I was told it was malignant, I just couldn't even believe it. I thought, how in the world does somebody like me get cancer, when I live so healthy and I've done all these right things? So it really has brought me back to that day of just reflection, and thinking how funny, mochaccino. I thought, I've never had another kind. I've had, oh my gosh, probably 15 CT scans. I don't even know how many. And every time I always get that one. And I can remember just being like, I don't even know what to do. Here I am in this place. And now just being like, I know what to do. Just, let me sign on the dotted line. Let's get this over with. Here's the thing. It's funny. Coffee cappuccino flavor, potassium sorbate, purified water, saccharin sodium, I can't even say this one, smithicone emulsion, sodium benzoate, sodium citrate, sorbitol, and xanthan gum. So I had I had cancer in 2015, gone through multiple CT scans, had my heavy metals tested. So back in 2017, 18, my blood work was a mess. My LDL was high, my A1C was high, I was 25 pounds heavier, couldn't lose the weight no matter what I was doing, how I was eating, how I was working out. Nothing was helping. and my blood pressure was high. So everything was off the charts, and I had always had perfect readings prior to cancer. So, and my white blood cell count was obviously low from having cancer. And so I really wanted to figure out, like, how do I change these things? How do I get this up? Because here's what usually happens, and here's what was recommended. Blood pressure gets high. They're like, well, if it keeps getting high, we can put you on blood pressure medication. Okay. My hormones are all over the place because I went immediately into menopause, and it was like, oh, you can do hormone replacement therapy. So, so you don't have to have like hot flashes and to normalize things, and you're so young that you're going through this. And I was like, okay, like that doesn't sound good to me either. And then it was just this cascade of, well, A1C is high, you're kind of flagging pre-diabetic, we need to keep an eye on that. If this is the case, we may have to, put you on medication. I was like, this is out of control. LDL, we're going to keep an eye on that for 6 months. If that doesn't get down, we may have to put you on a statin. I was like, all right, this is how it begins. I get an illness, I have perfect blood work, I get an illness, I fill my body full of poison, right? Chemotherapy is poison. Radiation through my body, surgeries, multiple drugs, Dilaudid, what was I? I was on a fennel patch. I took extended release morphine for probably 15 weeks. So literally just my body was riddled with all this stuff. And I was such a healthy person that I remember I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful to me. Then of course you go through chemo and you feel terrible. So the last thing you want is all the healthy, like the vegetables and stuff, like you just don't feel well. So it was easier to just eat like bread, like have a sandwich or whatever. I think I ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches just because you want comfort food. You feel terrible. So when those of you who have gone through cancer, you totally can relate to what I'm saying. And after it was all said and done, and it was 2017, I was like, okay, how do I make, my body better? How do I heal from this? How do I get off of, or not really off, but how do I stop this train? Because I just saw, like 5 years later, my body was going to be on all these medications, which cause even more issues, right? Like depression and anxiety, and then people are put on pills for that, and then they can't sleep, so then they're put on Ambien. And I've seen this when I worked for the Frisco Senior Center. I've seen this with people with medications, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to change my story. So 2017, I had come across some old documents that I had back when I had worked with Dr. Farrell. He's a chiropractor here in Texas. And I had done a cleanse with him, and then out of that kind of created my own version of a cleanse. And so he had given me something from a doctor, Dr. Daniel Pompa. If you watch my videos, I talk about him frequently. I love this man. He's amazing. He's basically like an autoimmune genius. And it came out of his own story of having mercury toxicity. He had gone to the dentist to remove his mercury fillings, and it created a storm in his body of mercury, and he became super sick, I think for like 3 years. So it took him a couple years to heal himself, and out of that he has created a group, Fasting for a Purpose. He has a lot of supplements he recommends, and he works with the sickest people. So I have been following him, and I came across some documents anyway. And it was on a cellular healing diet. And I was like, all right, what's this about? Like I was eating super clean. I had bought a juicer. Like I was thinking, this is what I need. I just need to fill my cells with like good nutritious foods from like juicing, thinking that would help. So at the time that I knew of Dr. Pompa, I think Facebook was new. So I thought, you know what, he's probably on Facebook. So I go on Facebook, I start checking him out. And I start reading, what's this cellular healing diet about? So if you guys are interested, there's a free ebook he has. It's called The Cellular Healing Diet. So check it out. I'm going to probably add that when I do my menopause makeover. I'm going to add that to it. It was absolutely the beginning, launching pad for me to change my health story. So I started doing basically what I had to take out. I remember I was sitting reading it. My husband walks in. I tell people this story and I'm like crying and he's like, what is going on? And I was like, I had tried lots of stuff. Okay. At this point I was almost 3 years cancer free. I had done the hyperbaric chamber. I had done physical therapy. I had done, what else? I was doing the infrared sauna. I mean, I was doing all kinds of things. I had worked at Orange Theory. I was doing HIIT training, which was jacking up my back and all of that. I was doing all these things and I could not lose weight. Got a juicer, right? Got the juicer. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give up my sweet potatoes and I think I'm gonna have to change some fruits that I'm eating. And he was like, this is what you're crying about. I was so distraught because like I love healthy food. I do. I've been off the standard American diet for probably 20 years. I've lived really healthy. So I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to eat? Like, I don't even know what to do. But it was a lot more greens, a lot more alkaline foods, and I was going to increase my healthy fats. And so that was something that was really key for me because I don't think I ever paid a lot of attention to fat. You know, I come from the 90s. And so, you know, in the 90s, it was all about don't eat fat. And so obviously as I became a trainer and started learning more about nutrition, I went through the whole trainer diet, you know, when you eat the trainer diet, like the chicken, the boiled chicken and broccoli and cottage cheese and all this stuff. So I did that. I did all the protein bars, protein shakes, and then learned all the chemicals that were in that stuff. I was like, not going to have that anymore in my life. So probably in my early 30s, maybe like mid 30s, I got rid of all the protein powders and protein bars and started eating a lot more whole foods. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to give this up. So here's what I did. I got rid of all starchy vegetables. This is gonna be part of my menopause makeover that I'm gonna put together for a free download. And I got rid of those. I got rid of like the carrots and the sweet potatoes. I knew it wasn't forever, but it was needed to be for a time. Like I had to check this out. So I got rid of all the starchy vegetables. I took a look at the glycemic index chart and I stuck with, and I did them sparingly, but I stuck with berries and green apples. So that was the only fruit I limited myself to. And then I started adding healthy fats. So at the time I started increasing avocados. I started eating olives, which I never really liked in the past. I ate some nuts, but I noticed nuts bothered me a lot. So I was really careful with those, but I did start eating more nuts. And I added some coconut oil into my diet. And as we know, that's kind of become a little bit more popular, like the saturated fat in the coconut oil, you know, can be okay. And I would say this, I follow a lot of plant-based people as well. You do want to be careful with oils. Oils are still processed. So, you know, even though olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oils, they withstand the heat better, if you can cook with things like broth, do that because that's going to lower your calories as well. So that's just something that can help you guys with calories as well as inflammation. So yeah, I started doing that, started drinking like, I think bulletproof coffee and all that stuff. And so for 90 days, that was my plan. The first week I lost 7 pounds. The second week I lose another 7 pounds. I can't believe this. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? And then the third week I lost 7 pounds. So 21 pounds in 3 weeks. And I knew it was inflammation. Like I was like, this is crazy. So I had done my blood work a couple weeks prior to this. And then in between the time I lost the 21 pounds, which was right around Christmas time, and my next oncologist appointment, I was going to have to go for my CT scan. So I decided to water fast. So I did a 5-day water fast in between. And my purpose of that was to see if my white blood cell count would actually increase, because that was my issue, was how come my white blood cell count is not elevating and it's been 3 years post-cancer. My oncologist's statement was, this is your new normal. And I'm like, I don't really like that statement. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in health and fitness and I'm always like, let's figure out of the box thinking, another way this can't be. Our bodies are so intelligent. They have the ability to heal. I mean, it is amazing what our bodies can do. So I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that I need all these medications to heal me. I'm not buying it that this is my new normal. I'm going to figure this out. And if somebody in traditional medicine can't help me, then I'm going to look elsewhere. So, again, I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to try this water fasting. This sounds crazy to me. 5 days, only water. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to, get the glucometer. I'm going to test my ketones and glucose and let's go for it. So that's what I did. My mom and I did it together. She got off her blood pressure medication, which was awesome. And then, and she hasn't been back on it at all. So it totally changed her blood pressure. And then, every day we did our glucose. So it's interesting because I'm on day 4 of water fast. This is probably, I don't know, my 6th one. I can't even keep track now. But basically, the first time I did it, I lost 1 pound a day, and I could not get into ketosis. I could not get into a level of ketosis that was appropriate for a water fast. And so it took me until day 4. Now when I do it, I'm usually in ketosis end of day 2, day 3. So that's really encouraging because that's showing me that I'm really encouraging for me. Every time I've done a water fast, it's gotten better. There's been a couple that I didn't have the glucometer because mine broke, and I had to buy another one. But you can get it at Amazon if you're interested in doing a water fast or just knowing what your glucose and ketones are, because there is levels. There's something called Ketomoji, and it's a GKI calculator, so you can find out what your number is. And it's really important if you are on the keto diet or if you're somebody who has diabetes and you want to keep it in that certain range, because that's important. Knowing your numbers it's really cool. I don't know. I really enjoy learning about that and seeing where my body's at. The other thing you can do is seeing if your body reacts to things like caffeine. So if you have adrenal stress. So one of the recommendations by Dr. Pompa is to, in the morning, first thing, if you're not water fasting, just normal day, get up, you check your glucose and your ketones. You have your cup of coffee. Don't put any sugar in it or anything, just black cup of coffee. And wait 30 minutes and then test your glucose and your ketones and see if it elevates. If it elevates, that means that your adrenal glands are probably taxed, and you probably should cool it on the coffee or maybe go with a non-caffeinated version for a time, because your adrenal glands are stressed. So that's just one of the things he kind of recommends, which I thought was a really interesting little thing to look at. So so I wanted to share that with you guys. I did that for, I did it for not just 90 days, I did it for 6 months. And this cellular healing diet, no starchy vegetables, and I limited my fruit. And then I started doing my cleanse again at about the 6-month mark. So 90 days in, I had decided, because I had that CT scan, January 2018, went to my oncologist after the water fast, and my white blood cell count elevated just slightly. And then every time before I would go to the oncologist, I would do a water fast, and my white blood cell count would go up. And I told her, I said, this is what I'm doing. And she was like, wow. I said, I'm interested to see if every time I come, if it will go up. So I will have my next appointment, my final appointment with her, I believe, at the end of October. So I have my CT scan on the 17th. And so I wanted to talk about heavy metals because if you go to directlabs.com, you can order, there's all different types of tests you can order. But if you think you may have a heavy metal two were from the chemo that I was on, platinum. Platinum was high on me, and there was another one, I can't remember it. And then there was this barium. There was something that's in this that was flagged high for me. So there was 3 of them for me. I went through a protocol and did a supplement. It's called Bind. It's on revelationhealth.com. You can go there. There's a bunch of different supplements that I take. When I went through my detox from the heavy metals, as well as what I'm doing for my SIBO right now. So I'm telling you what, cancer is an autoimmune illness, and there's a lot. So, to heal your body, and it's not been an easy journey, but I'll tell you what, I feel like I am thriving. I'm not on any medication. I don't take anything. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because when I went back for my blood work in 2018, after losing that weight, my blood work was perfect. And it's been perfect ever since. So my glucose is normal. My LDL is fine. My HDL is like super high. It's amazing. Cholesterol is great. And what else? High blood pressure. I have no high blood pressure. So my blood pressure is usually 110/70. So I just want to encourage you guys to take your health into your own hands, advocate for yourself, look at some of these alternative tests so you can see if you're not feeling well, something is not right. You should be able to heal. Your body is amazing and you should be able to heal. So getting sick is not the problem. We're all going to get sick, right? We live amongst bacteria and parasites and pathogens, and that is normal. You're going to get the common cold. You're going to get the flu sometimes. You're going to get sick. How do you heal? That's a question. How are you healing? If it is taking you a long time to heal, that's a problem. So, I would encourage you to look at water fasting. I would encourage you to look at changing your diet. You may think, I eat good, I do everything right. I wish somebody would give me $100 for every time I heard that, and then I had somebody write their food down, and I can tell you the holes in their nutrition and what the problem is. So I just want to help people. I want to get people the message. I want to help people. Women, you're going through menopause. I get it. I feel you. I went through menopause 5 years ago. Your body is not the same. Your estrogen is not the same. And because your ovaries are not producing estrogen, your fat cells that also make estrogen decide to join the party. And you start to increase your fat cells because your body is trying to normalize. Estrogen has health benefits and is protective for our bodies. That's why, once you start to lose that, people, not people, but doctors want to say, hey, get on these hormone replacement therapies because you're going to lose bone density and this and that. And I don't know, I'm a real big believer that food is your medicine and can heal you. And had I known that I had SIBO, probably wouldn't have gotten cancer, I'll be honest, because I would have been able to understand what was going on in my body, number one. Number two, if I would have gone for a colonoscopy, if there was the ability to have a colonoscopy and have at least some of it paid for in my 30s, I would have gone to have that. They could have removed that polyp. I would have not have ended up with a colostomy. I can't even speak today. See, this is what happens. Day 4 water fasting. I will say I'm a little bit like loopier. So anyway, but I may break the fast tomorrow morning, most likely. That'll be my day 5. Yeah, so I don't know, guys. I just wanted to share that with you. Again, Direct Labs is where you can get a bunch of different tests. Heavy metal testing, you can test for SIBO if you think you may have SIBO. There's all kinds of tests on there, Direct Labs. And then Revelation Health has a lot of the supplements I'm taking for healing SIBO. And also there's something called Bind that is really, really important if you do have heavy metals. It will bind to those toxins without recirculating back into the bloodstream. So that's another place. Check out Dr. Pompa. Mosaic Nutrition is my nutrition page. So I'll put a lot of information on there. So if you want to be in my Mosaic Nutrition group, follow me there. Fasting for a Purpose is Dr. Pompa's group. So, all right. And Farmer's Footprint, Dr. Zach Bush is another one that I follow. So, all right. I'm prepping for this on the 17th of October. CT scan, mochaccino. Last time, I usually don't feel great for a couple days after this, but I am so encouraged. This is the finish line. care of me. So awesome. All right, guys. See you soon.